learn from others' experiences, but our own path of reconciliation will be primarily driven by the domestic context in which we function. In the area of truth seeking, the Office of Missing Persons, established by law, must be fully operationalized with necessary allocation of resources. Whilst the Cabinet of Ministers is currently considering draft legislation to establish the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In the area of justice, review of cases under the PTA have taken place, and trials under the PTA have been expedited. While consultations are ongoing in Parliament to replace the PTA with proposed legislation for counter-terrorism, ensuring its conformity to international standards and best practices. As for reparations, an Office of Reparations has been established by law. 3 commissioners have been recommended for appointment by the Constitutional Council. And in 2019, the budget, the government has allocated 500 billion to pay a monthly allowance for families of disappeared persons who have already received certificates of absence. To ensure non-recurrence of conflict, we are firmly resolved to fulfilling the agenda on reconciliation. Madam High Commissioner, as I pointed out in the Sri Lanka Parliament on 14th of March 2019, I would like to emphasize that the data reflected in the High Commissioner's report in para 35, that only 75% of the land occupied by the security forces as at 2009 has been released, is at significant variance with the actual numbers. As at March 2019, 88.87% of state lands and 92.16% of private lands have been released. As for the mass graves in Mana, referred to in para 23 of the High Commissioner's report, despite the test results obtained from a USA laboratory revealing that the said skeletal remains date back to 1499 to 1719 AD, the period when Sri Lanka was largely under European colonial rule. The report presupposes other mass graves might be expected to be found in the future. An assumption of this nature, the public report on a matter of this magnitude and seriousness, I may say, will not be acceptable and may even cast a doubt as regards the other assertions that are contained in the report. In referring to para 68C of the OHCHR report, which calls for legislation establishing a hybrid court, I wish to make it clear that our position on this matter is as follows. The government of Sri Lanka, at the highest political levels, has both publicly and in discussions with the present and former High Commissioners for Human Rights and other interlocutors, explained the constitutional and legal challenges that preclude it from including non-citizens in the judicial process. It has explained that if non-citizen judges are to be appointed in such a process, it will not be possible without an amendment to the Constitution by 2/3 of the members of Parliament voting in favour and also the approval of the people at a referendum. Mr. Vice President, mindful of the time constraint, I wish to table for record my full statement which provides a detailed response to the OHCHR report with reference to the relevant paragraphs contained in the letter. Madam High Commissioner, at a time the world is confronted with increasing acts of terrorism and violent extremism, as I stated before this Council last year, the action by the Sri Lankan security forces during the conflict was against a group designated as a terrorist organization by many countries and not against any community. Further, it must be asserted that there are no proven allegations against individuals on war crimes or crimes against humanity in the OIS report of 2015 or in any subsequent revision document. It is therefore an injustice to deprive any serving or retired officer of the Sri Lankan security forces or the police of their rights. These assertions remain in direct contradiction to independent assessments sent by Colombo-based foreign missions, UN agencies, as well as other international organizations, including the ICRC. Some heavily redacted accounts of which have been presented not only in the House of Lords in the UK on October 2017, but also in writings by academics and journalists which is found in the public domain. Given this backdrop, while countries including the co-sponsors acknowledge these ground realities in conversations, these incongruities should be corrected in data as well, and Sri Lanka should be encouraged and assisted in finding innovative and viable local mechanisms and processes which incorporates international best practices, particularly at a time as recently demonstrated during the political developments in late 2018. Our judicial, bureaucratic and defense institutions have demonstrated independence, resilience, robustness and resolve. It is only then that we will be able to bring closer to these events, which would enjoy the confidence of victims and society at large, as referred to in your report. On behalf of the government, I reiterate that Sri Lanka, based on the above parameters, will continue to work with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and other partners. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. The European Union wishes to congratulate the High Commissioner and the OHR for the reports on Sri Lanka. We welcome and support the clear recommendations in the present and previous reports. We welcome the commitments made to the people of Sri Lanka.
என்பதை உலக நாடுகளுக்கு தெரியப்படுத்துகின்ற போராட்டம் என்றால் அதுக்கு சந்தேகமில்லை. மக்கள்